Welcome to the Inner Champions podcast. Would you like to promote your business so the world can find you? If so, follow us at Inner Champions Podcast on Instagram. Lastly, follow our current sponsors Tees Enchanted Trinkets on Instagram and The Real Talk with Jordyn.
Hey, what's going on, Inner Champions podcast listeners? I wanted to come on here today and let you guys know that I have moved my Inner Champions podcast over to Golden Sky Radio. You can find all that information and more on their official website at goldenskyradio.net. There will be updates about shows. There will be updates about other people who will have shows on the Golden Sky Radio platform. I wanted to come on here today, though, and let you Inner Champions podcast listeners know, with the move over to Golden Sky Radio, we will now be turning the Inner Champions podcast into a sports-related show podcast platform. It is still going to be called Inner Champions Podcast, but it's going to be more or less the heat and headlines sports show updates. So that is going to include NFL, MLB, WNBA, all the major, sports. And I'm going to, pick a time of the week, probably on Fridays. And I will hope to eventually, once I get under my feet, with all the help that I will be doing with Golden Sky Radio, I will designate some time to come on every Friday, and let you guys know what's going on in the sports world. Right now, currently, when I'm taping this for you, there's a lot of NFL trades and releases, and a couple things that we can kind of just start talking about now is that I know this will be several weeks out from you guys hearing about it other places, but I definitely want to talk about it a little bit. The two biggest pieces of news in the sports world I found today was that Travis Kelce for the Kansas City Chiefs will be returning for one more season, they say. And then in the other big news of the NFL sports world is that Tua Tagovailoa is no longer a Dolphin. If my calculations were correct and the things that I read and skimmed through today, he is an Atlanta Falcon. And there, for both of these individuals, are a key point that I want to come on here for a second and talk about and let you guys know kind of my opinion, my beliefs of was it good, was it bad for each of these people to continue. First things first, do I think it was good that Travis Kelce returned? By all means necessary, if he has the energy and the proper mindsets to continue and to continue to perform at a high level like he claims that he is still willing to, although I did want to come on and let you know that I would have suspected that he would not continue and he would actually go into retirement. And part of that reason why I personally thought that he would go into some level of retirement there's a lot of, concerning things going on in his everyday regular life, not being a football player. And personally, for some of the things that I've seen him come across and had to personally deal with, I don't think that they were in the most appropriate professional manner. And when you're at the magnitude of an NFL, player, do I expect you to be perfect? No, everybody makes mistakes. But when in a relationship with somebody at such an equal high level, it makes things very complicated. And then, of course, people take your content or the things that you might say in certain other podcasts for the NFL or wherever you might be speaking, they will take and twist anything you say. So I guess more or less I would have assumed that he would have retired primarily just for his safety and Taylor Swift's safety at that. As we all know at this point, I'm sure for those of you that follow these high level stars, she does definitely have, people that stalk her. She has people that, just try to do awful, mean things. And again, everybody, has their opinion to talk about to branch off and can go off on a tangent. I personally have never been a Swiftie, and I don't chase music and content like that. But in the same element of the sports world, I've never been a Travis Kelce fan. Personally, to me, he's someone that wants his voice heard more than just naturally. I think he kind of puts himself on his own pedestal. He puts himself on the map. Again, when you have that kind of level of publicity because the human that you are dating, you ultimately are basically realizing or hope to be realizing what you are signing up for. So with that in itself, to me seems kind of concerning. Again, I hope anyone at this magnitude has a good level of security, which I assume that he does. I mean, he can make enough money to probably have equal to or at the level of like the president level of private security if necessary. And that's really what it comes down to, because ultimately when he does decide to retire and he does pursue what I believe they are currently fiance and get married, it's just gonna again have the level of magnitude of ultimately at the end of the day it's for their safety. And I would just assumed that he would have retired primarily for his fiance's safety and probably for his own safety. But again, I kind of am glad he's back. I just hope he's back mentally. I hope he, can physically be in shape. I think ultimately last season, in his own way, he let his team down. Again, these are only personal opinions. I can't sit here and say I didn't go to practice every day with him. I wasn't a fly on the wall and I wasn't in his pocket. These are my things that he ultimately showed through a lens on television. And I personally think that his productivity was down. Again, living at this level of magnitude with the pressure that he does have off the field, away from the football field, I think his lack of focus was other places rather than playing for his team and being a true competitor that I've seen him be. But ultimately, again, when you're put in this situation at the magnitude and limelight that this young man has, things can get very complicated. Things can get very challenging. And I think that was just a season of last year there was a lot of chaos, there was a lot of talk, and there was a lot of challenge. So hopefully he's been able to mitigate some of that. Hopefully he can have a continued constant I guess discussion with his significant other, and they can kind of mitigate not their own issues but just keep it to a minimum, because ultimately at the end of the day we all know that the Kansas City Chiefs want to approach that Super Bowl again. They want to take home another Lombardi trophy. I personally believe that this will be Kansas City's head coach's and Andy Reid's last season. He ultimately is getting up there in age, unfortunately, and I could be completely wrong. This is just something that I've seen over the past year and a half to 2 years. Again, I would have suspected that he would have came out and said that this was his last season. I, again, am not trying to say that I don't want him in the league, and I don't think that he deserves an opportunity. But as anything, he is aging, and definitely I think it will have some level of impact as the season goes on. Now let's jump to Tua Tagovailoa and his current release from the Miami Dolphins. Do I think this was a smart move by Miami? Absolutely, because unfortunately, I believe personally that Tua Tagovailoa is only adaptable and decent at college. And for anybody's instance, I don't think that the NFL is made for everyone, although I know the ultimate goal when you are in college, especially at a college of the magnitude of the Alabama Crimson Tide, you think that you can just walk onto a field and be successful. And as you noticed with his level of, with the level of, at the time, Mike McDaniel, although now Mike McDaniel is in Los Angeles, I just don't think that ever became a true good connection for the both of them. And again, like I will repeat and I will say, this is just my own personal opinion. on these two instances. I just really don't think that Tua Tagovailoa is fit for the NFL. Again, I could be completely wrong. I could be, whatever, but this is my own opinion. And I think to more of my own opinion is that Tua Tagovailoa is very, very injury prone. I think just being a Miami Dolphin, he had approximately 4 different concussions within a couple of seasons, and he is fortunate, I think, to on some of those concussions still be active and still be moving and mobile, and he ultimately passed the proper concussion protocols. I personally think that the Atlanta Falcons took a huge gamble on Tua Tagovailoa, and again, I understand that that is how the pro sports works and can do for each side, each individual. But at the end of the day, everybody wants to get to that winning platform, which is the Super Bowl. And I just personally, and I hope I could be proved wrong, that Tua Tagovailoa is not fit for an NFL position, or at that matter, an NFL job. But again, I think that's what makes the joy of this sports show going to be a thing, and I really think that it is going to draw a volume of, again, I guess you could call it toxicity, but at the same time, just the sign of debate. And I love sports debate, and I am going to kind of probably turn this into a little of sports debate of why my thoughts against your thoughts type of deal. I think that's what's going to make this fun. So I really hope that if you guys are out there and you do catch this and you do listen in the future, that you guys can grow attached to it. I'm going to ultimately do my very best after this episode gets posted, probably around 2 weeks from whenever today is. I will be as consistent on Fridays as possible and try to at least leave you with a 30-minute breakdown of, I guess, the latest sports news. And again, that can vary from the NFL, MLB, WNBA, NHL a little bit, not very much. But that's really where I'm going with this portion of the Key in Headlines sports show. That is going to be its new name over here, although it will be tethered with the Inner Champions podcast. This is just going to be like a side show, and I really think we're going to get some good volume, some good interaction. And if there is any interactions that you guys want me to know immediately, want me to find out, you guys want me to talk about something specifically, please follow the Inner Champions podcast on Instagram at Inner Champions Podcast. Again, you can leave a comment, you can get in the DMs, and let's just talk everything sports. I'm a sports guru. I want to, I guess, broaden my opinion, and I would love to start enjoying and getting some feedback. Again, you don't have to, but these will be here for you to listen to, and I'd love to compare and contrast my thoughts against, I guess, not even yours, but the NFL and social media of the NFL and what they would do and what they have to say. Ultimately, too, I will probably be embedding some NFL sound bites of some kind when there is a very detailed type of thing going on. And again, that can vary from the MLB, NHL, or any major sports facilitator talking about, I guess, a opinionated or toxic topic. And so there is going to be some very professional type twist, and I will then play something and then talk about it. And I, again, just hope to make this a fun experience for all of you. I hope to continue to bring you just, again, not the best. I'm not the best at what I want to do. But again, without trying, I don't know if it could ever get accomplished, because that is ultimately where the Inner Champions podcast started. So I am here on my very own platforms to help bring you the Key and Headlines podcast, Sports Show Updates. That is going to be its full name. There will be logos to show that. And I can't wait to bring it to you. And this will technically, I guess, be show number 1, kind of, I guess, the new changes behind Inner Champions podcast. Although, remember, Inner Champions podcast If you want a high energy, disciplined motivation type of podcast, that will be aired over on Golden Sky Radio. Again, check out all things Golden Sky Radio at goldensky.net. That is the official website for Golden Sky Radio. You can also check out other platforms for Golden Sky Radio. Instagram at Golden Sky Radio, TikTok at golden.sky.radio, and help push those platforms. If you could just come leave a follow, you could come drop a comment, you can come say hello to the Inner Champions podcast over there on Golden Sky Radio. That would be phenomenal. That would be amazing. And I am just incredibly excited to start this new portion of the Heat and Headlines podcast over here on the Inner Champions podcast platform, because I don't want to ultimately take away from that. I would like to continue to branch off, and it's kind of weird to branch off the Inner Champions podcast on these particular platforms where this will get posted. But again, it's going to be turned into a completely sports show, sports updated type of gig, type of deal. And I hope that some of you will grasp onto that. And I know that there's a handful of sports gurus. So again, quickly and finally, if there's any type of thing you want me to talk about, any kind of discussion that you want to discuss, any kind of discussion that you want to debate about in any pro sport of the pro world out there, remember to please follow the Inner Champions podcast and say you are there for some sports debate, some sports discussion. I would love to take new messages and some new inquiries, and of course, most importantly, some new follows. We are doing quite well over there on the Instagram platform with our follow count right now, and I didn't expect it to get where it's at today. So if you guys can help by doing such a thing, I also want to let you know that the tees and trinkets will still remain a sponsor for even the sports show, and also the Real Talk with Jordyn will remain a sponsor for now the sports show. It is anything and everything that I can do in return for them. They are two very good friends of mine. You can also catch the Real Talk with Jordyn over there on Golden Sky Radio and those platforms. It is a very mental health level of podcast. I will take a minute and let you guys know that the reason for the Real Talk with Jordyn is the reason behind Inner Champions podcast and now the Heat and Headlines sports show. She is an inspiration. She's been an inspiration to mine behind the podcast world for about a year. She is a phenomenal human being. She gave me all the tips and the tricks and how to do and basically put my own podcast on the air. I couldn't do anything enough to repay her for all her tips, all her tricks, all her advice, and most importantly, her episode that ultimately saved my life. And eventually I will broaden that and I will explain what that means, and I will make sure to put a piece of how she saved my life and exactly what she said to change my thought process in my brain to ultimately save my life. And I could not thank her enough, and I could not thank her podcast enough for doing such a thing. So ultimately, I want to finish and wrap up by saying thank you for listening to now what's going to be called the Heat and Headlines podcast. I am very, very excited to get this thing going. After approximately 2 weeks from then, when this gets posted, this episode, and then you'll be just hearing things primarily probably on Friday. That will give me enough days to gather information throughout the week, and maybe eventually we'll push it to Saturdays when the seasons actually get started. I will ultimately pick 2 to 3 games a week, and we will, especially for the NFL, and we'll break those down. Again, I will do my very best for any big news that comes about. And again, where you guys can help and where you guys can pitch in is get on my social media, tell me about some big news, and let's talk about it. And I want to broaden my community over there on my Instagram platform in the sports world. And so if there's any big news, sports news that you guys find and want to my opinion on it, please bring it to my attention. Please let me know what you feel would be fun to talk about in the sports world. I want you just as much a part of this as myself. I love to do the work. I love to do the research. but at the same time, there are going to be tons of information that I miss. I know and understand that I'm only one person, and it's going to take a village to get this thing going. And I ultimately want your thoughts and your opinions and your just opinions, and just thought process and behind all of this. So I'm really ultimately excited. I've been wanting to start this sports show for a couple of weeks now, and I have the perfect opportunity to. I have the perfect platform to do so. So I can't thank you furthermore. And for you sports geeks out there, please consider following the Inner Champions podcast, and we will see you in the coming weeks with everything sports. So please make sure to follow us on all of our platforms, and we will catch you in a few weeks. Thanks for listening to the Heat and Headlines Sports Show here on Inner Champions Podcast.